supply and demand, where prices come from. So the chapter outline, first we're going to look at the demand side of the market. We're going to look at consumers, their preferences, how price affects how much of a product, good or service that they demand. Then we'll look at the supply side. Luckily, the insights and the laws of the demand side very similar to the supply side. Basically focusing on how price affects how many of a good or service that producers are going to make, that bring to the market. And we'll look at the things outside the control of firms and consumers that affects the demand and the supply. Then we'll look at market equilibrium. So we'll put together the supply and demand curve, look at where they interact, or where they cross, and learn about the implications from that. And then finally, we'll look at the effects of supply and demand shifts on equilibrium. So equilibrium, when the amount demanded is the same as the amount supplied. It's equilibrium, that's like the best point to get in the market. We'll look at the effect of moving the supply and demand curve, those things that affect the supply and demand curve outside of prices. We'll see how the market responds to that, how individuals respond, how producers respond, and what happens to things like price and quantity produced. The reason why this is important, this is an actual article from a couple years ago. When the supply of drugs run low, drug prices mysteriously rise, data shows. Hopefully, at the end of this chapter, you won't think mysteriously. You'll understand exactly why prices rise when the supply runs low. So the textbook uses, actually, who has the textbook? Okay, so a decent number of you. You don't need it for this class, there's no assignments or anything out of it, but it helps to be able to read along. You can find it online for free or borrow it from a friend. That also works. I don't get paid for you guys buying this, so I really don't care. If I wrote the textbook and I got like a royalty from you guys buying it, then I would require people to buy it. I mean, that's how incentives work, right? So in the textbook, they talk about like smartwatches. So if I don't go through and like edit it to change to like different funnier products, we'll deal with smartwatches. So first, the demand side for smartwatches. How many smartwatches do consumers want to buy? This is affected by the price of the smartwatches. Obviously, if smartwatches are cheaper, consumers will buy more of them, or more consumers will buy them, because obviously, it's less costly. I think that's pretty intuitive, that people like things to be cheaper. It's also affected by other factors, including the prices of other goods, and we'll get into those other factors a little bit later. What also helps determine the price of a smartwatch is the supply of smartwatches. So how many smartwatches are producers willing to sell? Again, this is also affected by the price of smartwatches. If it costs more to make a smartwatch than you can get by selling it, obviously a firm's not going to sell it because they're going to lose money. And again, this is also affected by other factors, including the prices of other goods and a few other things. Basic ideas. Consumers buy more at a lower price and less at a higher price. Hopefully this is intuitive to you guys. Also, producers sell more at a higher price and less at a lower price. Remember, producers have that hard budget constraint. They can't lose money, so that prevents them from selling at a loss, at least for over the long term. We'll talk a little bit later about when firms want to sell at a loss. And I think it's accounting 102. We also talk about when it's smart to sell at a loss in the short run. These are fairly simple, hopefully intuitive ideas, but they have widespread implications for how prices and the quantity sold are determined. So first, let's look at the demand side of the market. So we're going to go through and talk about the variables that influence demand. But first, before we look at that, we want to look at how consumers behave. So when we talk about market demand, that's the demand by all consumers of a given good or service. So the market demand is the entire quantity demanded in a market. Now there's no fixed or objective need by consumers. How much they want to buy or whether they want to buy is determined by things like price and by the price of other goods. So as the price becomes cheaper for something, people want more of it. They're willing to buy more of it. So there's no like fixed subjective need that they want this much. If the price goes down, they'll want even more. Here we have a demand schedule and a demand curve. The demand schedule just lists the price of a good and then the quantity that will be sold and that will be bought at that price. So for smartwatches, if the price is $450 for a smartwatch, in this example, there'll be 3 million smartwatches that are demanded by people. There's millions of smartwatches. As the price goes down from 400 to 350, you see the quantity go from 3 million to 4 million to 5 million. Again, as things get cheaper, more people are going to be willing to buy. And then here we see on the right the demand curve. This is what we're going to work with through much of the class. You have the price up here on the y-axis and the quantity demanded on the x-axis. Here you can see the downward sloping relationship. As the price goes up, there's fewer smartwatches demanded. Price goes down, there's more. So when we draw the demand curve, or when we talk about movements along the demand curve, we assume we call in the Latin term ceteris paribus, or all things being equal. Basically, when we're looking at the difference between, or the relationship between price and quantity, we're holding everything else constant. We're pretending that no other variables, no other things that might affect the price and quantity are changing. In real life, obviously, as those change, everything is going to change. It's going to have like a ripple effect. But in order to make this analysis simple and to provide the intuitive results, we're going to pretend that everything else is equal. So if we move from $450 for smartwatches to $400 for a smartwatch, the quantity demanded is going to increase from 3 to 4, all else equal. If there's something else going on, we may not see a move from 3 million to 4 million. But for our analysis, we're going to simplify it so that we're assuming nothing else is going on. It may not be the most realistic, but again, it's helpful so we can understand what the hell's happening. Okay, so the quantity demanded is the amount of a good or a service that a consumer is willing and able to purchase at a given price. Both of those are important, the willingness and ability. People may be willing to purchase a good, but if they can't afford it, then it doesn't really matter. I would love to buy a yacht right now, but obviously I can't afford that. And Lake St. Francis is a little small to put a big yacht. Yeah, ability and willingness. I mean, I could buy a lot of ramen noodles right now, but I don't really have the desire to buy ramen noodles. So ramen noodle producer is not going to worry about me. I'm not going to affect the market at all because I have no willingness to buy that product. The law of demand, basically what we've been saying, states that holding everything else constant, so ceteris paribus, when the price of a product falls, the quantity demanded of a product will increase. And when the price of a product rises, the quantity demanded of the product will decrease. So it's that inverse relationship between price and quantity. You guys have any questions about how demand, like the law of demand, how that works? All right, good. So there's three things that explain the law of demand. Your book talks about two, but I also wanted to add in a third. And also didn't change the 2 to 3, so ignore that. So when the price of a good falls, this is what takes place. First is consumers substitute towards the good whose relative price is falling. Second, consumers have more purchasing power, which is like an increase in income. Because the cost of whatever good is now lower, they can buy more of it with that same amount of income. So it's relatively cheaper. And consumers shift towards a good with a lower opportunity cost. That's going to come into play a little bit later. That's probably not as intuitive as the first two parts. So the first, the substitution effect. That's the change in the quantity demanded of a good that results from a change in price. So making that good more or less expensive compared to other goods that are considered substitutes. Substitutes are goods, that can be switched out and used in the same way. They satisfy the same needs. If the price of a good falls relative to its substitutes, people are going to buy more of that good because it's relatively cheaper. There's also the income effect, and that's the change in the quantity demanded of a good that results from a change in the good's price, on the consumer's purchasing power. Both of these effects are happening at the same time, so we're never going to try to analyze one or the other, how they affect the quantity demanded, because they're both moving in the same direction for a change in price. So they're going to be going on at the same time. So it's the sum of those two, which is the effect of a change in price. Well, yeah, okay. So next, to the talk of opportunity cost is what's been termed the Allen effect. The two economists discovered in the 60s. This is for two goods that are in the same category. They're substitutes, they satisfy the same needs, and they're basically the same good. They did it with cigarettes back in the 60s, like cheap, low-quality cigarettes and like nicer, high-quality cigarettes. So if you increase the cost by a fixed amount, consumption is going to shift to the higher cost and higher quality good, which may seem counterintuitive at first, that people will go for the more expensive good instead of the cheaper good, while they're both made more expensive. But in this case, they're getting a lump sum. They're both getting the same lump sum tax. So if we're looking at, say, rat traps, they place a $1 tax on all rat traps, no matter what the quality is or what the price is. Before the tax, the low quality one costs $1, and the high quality one costs $3. So the opportunity cost, what you have to give up to get the high quality trap, is 3 low quality traps. Remember, back to opportunity cost, the cost of a good isn't just the dollars that you have to pay for it, but it's what you're giving up for it. Now, once you put that $1 tax on it, the low quality one is now costs $2, and the higher quality one costs $4. So now the opportunity cost of a higher quality rat trap is only 2 low quality rat traps. Because you have to give up fewer low quality traps in order to get the higher quality one, it's now relatively cheaper. So more people are going to buy the higher quality rat trap. When states first put taxes on cigarettes, they put I forget whatever state they study. I'm going to guess California because Alchin was at UCLA for years. They just put a lump sum like, all right, we're going to put $1 on all cigarettes or $5, whatever it ended up. A long time ago, so probably just like $1. And they observed this effect that more people started buying the higher quality, more expensive cigarettes, even though they expected them to buy the cheaper ones because now they're both more expensive. So this is opportunity cost coming back into play. Does this make sense to you guys? This is a little counterintuitive. Okay. So, shifting the demand curve. So we talked about changing price, moving along the demand curve. So price changes from 450 to 400. That's a producer choosing to change the price. You move along the demand curve. But it's still this curve right here. The demand schedule doesn't change, the curve doesn't move anywhere. I really wish there was a clicker so I could stand over there and change the slides. There's other variables that cause the entire demand curve to shift. So it will move out. It moves to the right here. You have an increase in demand. Moves to the left, that's a decrease in demand. Once supply and demand curves begin shifting, we put these together into equilibrium. This is where we can see some fun stuff, what the effect of different policies, different changes in the market. See what they bring. So even if the price stays the same, if the demand curve shifts, the quantity demanded is going to change. So right here, at this price, whatever this price is, say $400, if you increase the demand curve, shift the demand curve to the right, you're going to have a higher quantity demanded, but it's still going to be the same price. Likewise, the demand curve shifts to the left, decrease, you're going to end up on that same price, but with a lower quantity demand. So even if the price does not change, you still see the shift in demand causing an effect on the quantity demanded. Okay, so here's some of the factors that influence market demand. The first is income. Basically, an increase in income increases demand for almost every product. There's a few products that an increase in demand will actually decrease because it says the good's inferior, like it's low quality. So if you have money, you're not going to waste your money on something crappy. Next is the price of related goods. If the price changes of a substitute, if the price increases for a substitute, more people are going to demand the other product because the substitute is now relatively more expensive, so they'll just go to the cheaper option. An increase in price of a related good decreases demand if the products are complements. So if you tend to buy those two goods together and use them together, and the price of one increases, you're going to buy less of the other one because it's relatively more expensive to buy them both together. Next is taste. If consumers' tastes change over time, that'll shift the demand curve. If people are less willing to buy a product because their taste changes, maybe they're more health conscious, so they don't want to buy as much unhealthy food, no matter how cheap it gets, people are still going to demand less of it. Next is population and demographics. If you expect the population to grow in the future, you'll see more demand in the future just because there's more people to buy it, there's more potential consumers. If there's certain demographics that buy your product, say old people buying life alerts, there's more old people are living longer, and baby boomers are now becoming old, so a big chunk of the population is now old. you expect demand to increase. And then expected future prices. If you expect the price in the future to increase, you're going to buy more now while it's still relatively cheap. All right. So we'll take each one of these in turn. So first is changes in income in consumers. Now there's two types of goods. There's normal goods. Those are goods for which the demand increases as income increases and decreases when income falls. This is like just about any product you buy. So clothing, eating out in restaurants, vacations. The more money you make, the more income you have, the more you're gonna be willing to buy. When you graduate college, you get a job, you're gonna buy more of these types of products than you do now as a college student without a job or only working part-time. But there's also inferior goods. These are goods where the demand increases when your income falls, so it moves in the opposite way. These are things like secondhand clothing, ramen noodles, the sorts of things that when you're poor you buy, when you don't have much money you buy. But once you start to get income, once you have a decent income stream, you're not going to buy them anymore. Is there any finance people in here? Finance majors? All right, a couple. When they talk about stocks with a negative beta, it's the basically company that sells inferior goods. That when the market goes down, people's income goes down, they're going to buy goods from these places that sell like cheap stuff. So let's say like Dollar General. During a recession, more people shop at Dollar General than they do at like regular grocery stores or something because they sell cheap stuff. It's the same basic idea. So if you've got a normal good, I didn't bring a marker. Of course, there's none in the classroom today. But if you have, for normal good, person's income increases, demand curve is going to shift out. It's going to shift to the right. If it decreases, demand curve is going to shift to the left. They'll demand fewer because they have less money. And it's the opposite for inferior goods. Oh, we have it right here. Perfect. Okay. So an increase in income for clothing, because it's a normal good, is going to increase in demand for clothing. Remember, ceteris paribus. Other things being equal. We're pretending nothing else is going on. But for secondhand clothing, and you guys go to the Evansburg Goodwill, that place is a gold mine. I got a sweater there that said, or a sweatshirt that said, "Grandpa's my name, spoiling's my game." I used to wear that around campus all the time in undergrad. I had one sweater with a golfer on like a putting green, and all like surrounding him is like trees and like fall and turning like orange and yellow. It's so ugly. It's so awesome. But if consumers' income increases, they're going to be less likely to go to the Evansburg Goodwill and find those awesome gems. So their demand curve is going to shift to the left. It will decrease. Like I said, most goods are normal goods, hence the name. So we're primarily going to be working with normal goods and worrying about normal goods. But it's important to keep in mind that there are some inferior goods out there that have the opposite relationship because of the need they're filling. All right. Next, we'll look at the changes of price of related goods. So a substitute is a good or a service that can be used for the same purpose. So, I mean, example, a Big Mac and a Whopper, they're both burgers that satisfy your hunger. Ford F-150 and Dodge Ram, or whatever the Chevy truck is. I know a lot of people out here in Western PA have very strong opinions on what brand of truck is good. Is there anyone in here that would like fight someone for accusing them of having the wrong truck? Another example, jeans and khakis, both pants you can wear. I don't know if jeans and khakis are perfect substitutes. Because you can't wear jeans everywhere, you can wear khakis. I can't wear jeans. Well, I probably could because no one cares how people dress here. But most workplaces, you can't get away with jeans. So these are basically goods. Even if people, they don't have to be where people are indifferent between the two. So say some people may be indifferent between a Big Mac and a Whopper. But even if people have strong preferences, like Ford, Dodge, Chevy trucks, they're still substitutes because they're used for the same purpose and they satisfy the same needs. What are some of those other burgers? Anyone had like In-N-Out out in like California? Or Whataburger down in Texas? Like people from those areas like swear those are like the best burgers ever from like fast food places.
It's a Whataburger. It's like a restaurant. Yeah.
It's just fast food. But because they're regional, they're like super cool. And like everyone from that area thinks they're the best.
A reality TV show too. My mom watches it all the time.
Whataburger?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what's the reality
I
TV
have
show
no
about?
clue.
Like, is it like how a store runs
No
in a
clue.
day, or do they have like a bunch of stores they go to?
I don't know.
Is
Apparently,
it competition
they're the
between
ones
stores?
like brothers, right? Like the brothers are the one that started.
That's Wahlberg.
Got it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is that a fast food one?
Yeah.
I thought that was like a
No,
regular
it's
like
a
sit.
radio show.
Yeah, I thought it was
I
more of
think
a
it's
sit down place.
restaurant. I have no
I've never watched the show, but I do know about that show.
Okay.
But now I'd like to see see one at a fast food place.
Yeah, it would get good ratings, but it'd be terrible PR for anyone.
Oh yeah. Or even maybe not like a real reality show. Maybe just like a mockumentary, like The Office. It'd be like a white trash Office.
That would be the Netflix hit of 2020.
Set it in sheets. Altoona can finally get some glory. You guys watch Mindhunter? The show on Netflix about like the FBI trying to catch serial killers back in the 70s.
I think that was a good show.
It was really good. But in season 1, they come to Altoona to like catch a murderer.
Really?
Yeah, and the one dude just bitches about how much he hates Altoona the whole time. So it's extremely accurate. All right. Now, there's also complementary goods. And these are goods and services that are used together. So like Big Mac and McDonald's fries, typically eaten together. Hot dogs and hot dog buns. If you buy hot dogs, you're gonna want to buy buns to go with it for the meal. One thing I don't like about the example is like all the people that use bread as hot dog buns. They run out. Yeah. Alright, so then basically that means bread's a complementary good too.
Who decided?
Maybe it's an inferior complementary good.
Who decided that you have to eat bread with a hot dog? Like I wonder.
I don't know, hot dog's not very like high quality meat. So like a bratwurst I could see, eat that plain because that's like
Yeah.
better, but hot dogs like I don't know, cheaper, more processed. So you need bread to cover it up maybe.
I don't know.
It's easier to carry it home.
Makes it more mobile for like baseball games or like you eat it outside. People do eat them outside a lot.
I had someone tell me that in this area, I don't know how long ago it was, but they used to sell hot dogs with only 6 inside a pack, and the buns they would have 8. So the buns wouldn't be sold at a loss. So they'd still make their money with the buns.
Interesting.
But I mean, since
They
then
normally-
it's changed, but that's just what someone had told me. That he had,
Was that an area thing?
I don't know. I didn't really ask. He was just telling me about it. But he was like working in like a supermarket, so like
Yeah, I had heard of that before.
I just think
I do remember they were always 8-packs.
Yeah, I just thought it was strange.
They do that with burgers a lot. Well, burgers come in like really big packs. A lot of times you'll get like, I don't know, like 40 or 60 like frozen ones. But you get buns in what, 8-packs, 12-packs.
Like another, I don't know. I just wanted this like another thing like high scale printers usually sold at a loss, and they just make their money back with the.
Yeah, that's a different business model. We won't really get into that here. But monopoly lock-in pricing. Or not monopoly lock-in pricing. That's oh, I don't remember the name of it right now. which sucks because I just wrote a paper on it. But they tie those two goods together. Oh, bundling. They tie the two goods together. So they sell the first one cheap to get you in, and then they hit you with the cost of the ink. Or razor blades. You get the replacement razor blades for it. Those are more expensive than like the cheap handle. Same basic idea. You trick them in with like the low price, and then hit them with the I don't know, higher price for
I
it.
think it costs like per thing of like ink is only like 20 cents or something like
I wouldn't be surprised.
that.
Have you seen the one where they have like you can just like refill it with like ink? You buy the ink and pour it in.
I really wait. What? I don't think I
Jug
would
of
let
the
you
ink.
do
Like,
I saw like a commercial. I don't think it's like a jug of. it's like
imagine.
it's like the 10-gallon water jugs they have for like water coolers. You like tip it over and spills everywhere.
Because usually,
No, it's like a small like handheld thing. Because think of it, there's like 4 different like colors of ink, and you run out of one immediately,
And
and
then you
there's
have-
3 that are like most of the way full.
you have to
You throw it
replace
out.
the whole entire thing.
Yeah.
And they don't even. You used to be able to reset it to where you could still access the other ones, but they caught on and don't let you do that anymore.
Yeah. So this, I swear I saw a commercial for it. I don't have cable, so I don't watch that many commercials.
I've never even, but I'm surprised they didn't do that. I don't know if they're trying to get more people to buy printers, if they think that they don't have to constantly just keep buying whole packs instead
Yeah.
of just buying like one specific color.
My guess is that like some printer company needed market share. They're like struggling. They're like, well, hell, we'll sacrifice some money and do this just to get more people to buy.
They'd be sacrificing a lot, actually.
It could be. Well, it depends on how much they charge for the ink jug. I don't know. Okay, I don't know why they say this one for last, but left shoes and right shoes, that's a complementary good. You need a left shoe and a right shoe. But yeah, so, yeah. Oops. So substitutes and complements, the change in price on them has different effects for the other good. So, for substitutes, an increase in the price of a Big Mac is going to increase the demand for Whoppers. Demand curve is going to move to the right because now Big Macs are relatively more expensive. So it'll be cheaper for people to go for Whoppers, so more people are going to go for Whoppers. But the same increase in the price for a Big Mac is going to decrease the demand for McDonald's fries. Again, because that's more expensive, it's now relatively more expensive to get those fries because you're consuming the fries with the Big Mac. On the other hand, if we saw a decrease in price for the Big Mac, you'll see more people eating McDonald's fries or buying McDonald's fries because they're relatively cheaper. You can get the other part of it for less money. Same idea if like hot dog buns get more expensive. Caterers paribus, so we're assuming no one's using bread for hot dog buns. But the price of hot dog buns go up, fewer people are going to buy hot dogs. They'll switch to hamburgers because it's basically the same thing if hamburger buns don't increase. All right, let's take a break here, and we'll break up. Get a question from each side of the room.
Would compliments also work with like seasons? Because like people are gonna buy more hot dogs and hamburgers in summer when like people are out grilling than in winter when it's 20 degrees snowing.
That's not really compliments,
Okay.
but that's changes in demand. Well, due to the season, that's going to be taste.
Oh.
When it's hot outside, your tastes are going to change. You want more ice cream. When it's the winter, you want more hot chocolate. So you're going to see the same effect, but it's going to be because of taste.
Would you still shop at Goodwill if you're rich?
Yes, I still do buy some secondhand stuff. You can get some real gems.
Oh yeah. I got a nice like pink dress shirt. I was like normally $30 for $2, and I still wear it.
Nice. I have 2 sport coats I bought at Goodwill. Like 2 like good tweeds, not this one, but my other 2 like good ones that I wear. Got both of them. One at Goodwill, one was like a secondhand store. They call it like vintage fashions. They go to like estate sales and they buy like old people's clothes after they die. And then I have like 2 more jackets. They're like summer jackets that I bought on the internet. Because you can get them secondhand from a like quality dealer for like 50, 60 bucks. Or you can spend like $200, $300, $400 for them. I had a shirt, a Brooks Brothers shirt from Goodwill. I got down in DC when I was in grad school. It was really nice. I wore it for years, but I ripped this all down the sleeve the other day.
Oh.
Who rips a shirt there?
I can only imagine like Goodwill's in Pittsburgh versus not Pittsburgh, though.
Oh yeah, Evansburg, you go there for weird stuff.
There is a ton of weird stuff in there.
Another sweatshirt I found on the back. There's a big seal with like 2 basses on it, and it says around the outside, "Women want me, fish fear me." You know, someone's grandpa loved that shirt when he got it for Father's Day. But yes, I still would buy some stuff at Goodwill if I was rich. Although I guess once at a certain point, you can just like have them custom make funny stuff for you. But there's something about finding it,
Yeah.
knowing that someone else like bought
It's
this
the
weird
search.
thing.
It's the search.
The thrill of the hunt. How about you guys over here? I mean, I could lecture. This is just so you guys have like more entertainment than reason to take a nap. All right, and you guys ever had like a really like terribly boring class you need to pay attention in? So you just bring like, mostly talking to the women here, bring your purse and just stuff it with a pillow, and just sleep on it. I took Business 101 as a sophomore. Maybe I should delete this part before I post it online. Took Business 101 as a sophomore, and it's like an intro, like welcome to college class. It's like, I knew this crap already. And the one girl that sat next to me was also a sophomore. Only 2 sophomores in the class. So she would stuff a pillow into a purse and just sleep on it the whole time.
I used to do that in high school. I would bring a big blanket and just put it in there.
Yeah, that's smart. I would try the backpack. The backpacks are like, they have all like the buckles and stuff on the outside.
When you're tired though.
Yeah. But at that point, if I'm that tired, I can just put my hand, like arm down and sleep. You guys have anything?
Shake Shack or Five Guys? Who has the better burger?
It's been a long time since I had Shake Shack. Shake Shack.
Maybe not one that
No. There one in State College?
No.
Does someone say
No.
that? Is there one in Pittsburgh? I don't know where they're from. I have one in New York City. I'll say Shake Shack, but it's been a long time since I've had it. I love Five Guys because of the amount of food you get. It's expensive, but they pour like 6 potatoes in your bag. They don't even put it in like, they have like the little cup, and then they just dump a ton on top of it. So like, you're just like reaching through like loose fries to get your stuff. But I still like it. It makes it feel like there's more.
Do you know why they give peanuts?
No idea.
Because I was.
Was
trying
there
to-
something like the business owner like originally,
I
or
don't
like?
know, but like I looked at one of the cases and then I looked up the price like one of the cases. It was like $40 to $50, and like sure it would take a while for that to go, but I was like, what if they just like sold it for like $1 or $2 for each scoop? I don't know. I was like just so confused that they give peanuts.
I like that it's like free, and while you're waiting in line, you can eat them.
That's why. It's because it takes slightly longer to make the fast food burger from scratch and not pre-cooked patties, and therefore they wait a longer, like customers wait a longer time for the peanuts there.
Really? Are you reading that, or?
Yes, I'm reading
Okay.
that. I'm 100% reading that.
I guess it's to make people like satisfied though, so they don't get like worried that it's taking too long, so
Yeah.
they just munch.
You probably don't lose money off the peanuts either if they're selling.
They
their burgers for so
do,
much.
yeah, they are a little bit higher than like a normal fast food.
Yeah, definitely more expensive.
But
I
it's,
think they're a higher quality.
yeah, I mean, they say it's all fresh and like, they have a ton of space, like their refrigerator, like the Johnstown is huge. So I mean, I believe it.
And you can customize it like any way you want your
Oh, yeah,
burgers.
there's a
Like,
ton of-
that's awesome. That's a good question. I haven't thought of Shake Shack in a while. All right, one more.
Alright, so with Five Guys, regular fries or Cajun fries? Have you ever had the Cajun?
No, is that like an option?
Oh yeah, they're good.
The correct answer is Cajun.
What do they put on the Cajun fries? Just like Old Bay type of seasoning?
Yeah,
Like-
it's just good like Cajun seasoning. It's so good.
All right, well, I guess I know what I'm doing after work today.
They're so good. They're so good.
Writing down a memo.
I know I was supposed to teach you guys today, but I'm learning a lot. This is making it worth it. All right. So, they ask if smartphones are substitutes for smartwatches, if they satisfy the same needs. So, since very few of you guys are econ majors, there's one econ major in here, right?
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Are there any econ minors in here? They don't say that on the class list. All right. So because of that, I'm sure you guys don't care that much about economics. I can take it. So I'll try to put in more general business stuff that relates to this. So let's talk about this. Do you guys think smartwatches are substitutes for smartphones? Because they do a lot of the same things, have a lot of the same functionality. But do they meet your needs the same way a smartphone meets your needs? Does anyone think they do? Or close enough? I've never had a smartwatch, so I don't know, I can't come down too hard one way or the other. Can you text from a smartwatch, or can you only just read the text?
You can.
Is it easy to text?
It depends on the
I feel like the watch face is going to be too small to text.
Just like draw your words or your letters.
It's a swipe.
Yeah, I like that. I have that for my phone for texting.
I love swipe.
But I like it, but then I get super lazy.
Oh,
I kind of go back and forth, and then weird words come up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So the cost and benefits to it.
Oh, you take it for granted all this time.
Yeah. If I had to go back to a phone that didn't have that, it would be weird at first. A lot of people bought smart watches and smartphones. Had them both. So maybe it's not a substitute. Maybe they're complements. You guys think they're complements?
Yeah.
Makes it easier during a meeting or something. It's more socially acceptable to check your watch than it is to check your phone. So if you get a text, just look at it real quick.
I just think it's, a sign of our health consciousness in the past 10 years. If we have the ability to actually maintain our lifestyles a little bit better, I guess smartwatches are one of the ways to do it that a phone can't.
So it's more like a health monitor, like a
For me-
Fitbit or
for
something.
Me personally, yeah.
Is that how a lot of people use them now? Yeah, you have a smartwatch on, right?
I use mine when I work out. For a stopwatch, it tracks my heart rate and all that stuff. So it's pretty nice.
A lot more convenient than pulling your cell phone out of your
Yeah,
pocket
yeah,
for everything.
Yeah, it'll track my runs and it's a
Yeah,
lot easier.
You understand your limitations a little bit better, understand what's actually going on.
Okay, so it's not a substitute or a complement in this case. It's just
almost
a
its
totally
own-
different
yeah,
thing.
It's almost its own
It's
different.
serving a different need.
For how I would use it,
Yeah, and obviously everyone's going to use it slightly differently.
In order to have a smartwatch, you have to have a phone, though, right?
I don't know.
You-
People have it. Yeah,
you
so
have to
It's
connect
either,
it.
it's either you have to pay another cellular bill, or you have to have a phone.
Okay.
You can buy the cellular for it if you don't want to have a phone with you.
Okay, so in that way, it is like a complement.
Yeah. So you have to have one, but you don't necessarily have to have the other in a way.
Okay.
I'm just thinking when it comes to what I actually use it for.
Yeah. So you
Not
got
necessarily-
usage versus payment.
The
Yeah.
prerequisite almost in a
Yeah.
sense.
But everyone has a smartphone, or at least a phone plan. So do they have? No, easy. Man, wish I had a marker. I'd ask you guys. If the price of smartphones increases, what is going to happen to the demand curve, do you think, for smartwatches? Think it'll stay the same, the demand will increase, or the demand will decrease? Decrease? because you still have to buy a smartphone.
I mean, if you already have one, though.
You already have one, you just wait until. Yeah, that's why I don't like this example.
Yeah, because
And they
you
use,
already
they
have
use
a
this
phone.
freaking
Then-
smartwatch throughout the entire
But
thing.
if you're waiting until like the price drops or like another one comes out before the price drops, then your demand for that time is decreasing.
Yes,
So your demand is still decreasing.
right there. Yes. All right. Let's get away from that question because I don't like the product they chose. I'll go in and make it a joke from like It's Always Sunny at the Office or something. New products in the future. All right. Next is change in tastes. That's a variable that can shift the demand curve. You're joking last class about like memes changing people's demands. What's it, those belts with the 2 G's on them? Those like the Gucci belts. You see them like all like Instagram like models or like influencers wearing them. It changes people's taste. People now see, I don't know, popular people wearing it or famous people wearing it. Now they want to get one too. So you're gonna get a change of taste from before when not famous people did it. So if their taste change to want more of it, like in this situation, the demand curve is going to shift out. It's gonna increase. Their example, people become more health conscious, will demand less fast food. So the demand curve is going to shift to the left, and we see lower demand. So people are trying to eat healthy, a lot healthier than before. The demand curve moves back. Doesn't matter how low you make the price of fast food, you move from here to here, there's still going to be lower quantity demanded than if the taste never changed. All right, next is changes in population and demographics. So demographics is the characteristics of a population based on age, race, ethnicity, gender, however you want to break it down. Is it breaking down society into different groups that all have a common characteristic? So if you increase the number of people buying something, it'll increase the amount demanded. If a demographic group or the population as a whole that demands that has a need for a product, if that increases, you're going to see the demand increase because there's more potential customers, more people that are going to be buying it. So an increase in the elderly population increases the demand for medical care. It doesn't have to be the normal breakdown that you think of. So maybe an increase in single parents or 2 working parents households will increase the demand for early childcare because you have more people working, fewer people staying home full time to raise kids. You have more childcare. Even though it's not a typical like demographic that you think of, it's still a demographic change in society that will change the demand for a given product or service. Finally, there's changes in expectations about future prices, like you were talking about. Consumers also decide when to buy them. They'll hold off and wait until the price drops. Some of the big box stores, I don't know, like JCPenney, Macy's, like those, they run sales like throughout the year. After time, they condition their customers to just wait for the sales. So instead of buying stuff throughout the year, they'll wait till like right after Christmas, like the middle of summer sale. I don't know what other sales they have throughout the year. They'll wait Black Friday. They'll wait for those because they'll know they'll be cheaper there. So you can think of future products as substitutes for current products. They serve the same need, but just at a different time. So if you expect the price is going to increase tomorrow, you're going to buy more today. You're going to do it because obviously it's going to be more expensive tomorrow. So you jump on it now while you have the chance. And if you expect the price is going to decrease in the future, you're going to decrease demand today. You're going to wait until the future when it goes down, until it goes on sale. So if you find out the gas is going to rise tomorrow, I don't know, you know someone that works at Sheetz, and they tell you the price is going up tomorrow, you'll run out and buy gas today if you need. Or if it's like the weekend before Memorial Day or Labor Day, a big travel weekend, you get gas on like Wednesday or Tuesday and fill up because the price always increases that weekend. All right, you guys have any questions about the variables that shift the demand curve?
Along with populations and demographics, could government policies also have make a shift? Like for example, you brought up like 2-parent working households or like single parents would make an increase in childcare, like early childcare. But if we have like maternity leave or paternity leave for like a longer period of time, wouldn't that decrease the need for early childcare?
Yes.
So would that fall into that, or what? Like, where would that go?
You know, that's a good question.
It's not
It-
really anything.
I say maybe it can fall under change in income because it's relatively less expensive. Maybe taste, because now it's a more common practice to be able to stay at home because there's now, maybe it's its own variable. I'll have to look and see. If it is its own variable, you won't have to like memorize that for the exam. It'll just be these 5. These don't cover everything, but you're right. That's government policy, especially like in that situation, directly has an impact on people's decision making. Any other questions? All right, so your homework assignment for Tuesday is going to be the same as for last Tuesday. The murkiest or hardest to understand point from this week. If you don't have one, do you think everything made sense? Write down what you think was like the hardest to understand. I'll help use this for when we do the review to know what points you guys need to go over again. So it'll still be helpful. And this will count for your like class participation grade. So if you don't like talking in class, you're giving me something.